Inflation is at multi-decade highs in many Western countries, but there are still places out there that have much lower inflation than where you live, and today I'm going to tell you what they are and how you can use them to lower your cost of living and even your tax bill. So a lot of these countries with lower inflation are places where you wouldn't want to live. So Rwanda allegedly has deflation, the Maldives, mild deflation. Japan has one of the lowest rates of inflation in the world right now, even as their currency gets torched. But you have some other countries that may be possible to live, that will issue you a residence permit, that can even work towards citizenship in. Places that are cheaper to live, places where prices are going up more slowly, and places where you can even lower your taxes. So I'm going to go through the list and show where inflation is lower than it is in the US or UK. If it's your first time here, I'm Andrew Henderson, founder of Nomad Capitalist. We're a boutique consulting firm that helps 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. And you can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. But going where you're treated best means you're in control, not your government. You control where your money is. You control your wealth. You control your freedom. And that is important, especially now. So these are some numbers, most recent numbers that we have here. We're looking at the U.S. with 8.5% inflation. Was obviously a little bit higher than that before. They are beaten by Sweden, the Eurozone in general, 8.9. You've got Portugal and Ireland about 9. Brazil, UK, Netherlands right around 10%. There are countries where inflation is lower than that. And so what I'm telling people during inflation is, by the way, I mean, certainly if you're a millionaire, if you've got the kind of income that we're helping people with, you can afford to pay more. But why do you necessarily want to pay more? There are places where you can go and lower your cost of living. And so even if you just lower the cost of living in, let's say, Mexico, 8.2 versus the US is 8.5, it is cheaper to live in Mexico. You can get a residence permit relatively easily. And so the inflation rate is the same, right? And so you're going to probably have a lot more personal freedom than wherever it is that you are living. And so get the residence permit. You can work towards citizenship there if you want. You're going to have lower costs for a lot of folks, including the Canadians that we're working with, much better weather, more freedom. So even if it's just a push, why not take this as a wake-up call to say, where's at least inflation the same but the overall costs are lower? Well, Mexico's a perfect example. Italy, perhaps another example, depending on where you're living. Italy has a number of tax incentives that you can potentially reduce your taxes 90% off of their top rates. If you're a high earner, you can potentially pay a flat 100,000 euros, make all the money you want worldwide. If you're an American, these obviously become a bit more difficult because you're taxed no matter where you live. Even though you can dramatically reduce your taxes overseas, you're still going to have to deal with the U.S. tax system. But Italy and Mexico, you can get residence permits there. You can live there. The costs are lower, especially in Italy in the south. Probably not going to lower your costs much in Milan, but in many other parts of Italy you can, and you can get better tax situations, and again, even work towards citizenship. How'd you like to be Italian after 10 years, right? Have a lower rate of inflation, lower cost of living, work towards one of the best passports in the world, all while spending less. Other countries, Finland, probably not much of use to us. Thailand, you got 1 percentage point lower inflation than the U.S. Again, tax-friendly. Potentially your tax rate can be as low as 0. Lower cost overall. Better lifestyle for many folks, right? You can get a residence permit. We've covered in numerous episodes, Thai Elite Visa, the Investors Visa. They get new residence permits coming out. So it's easy enough to go to any of these kind of places, Mexico, Italy, Thailand. You're not going to get citizenship there, but you've got a great tax situation. You can keep more of your money, costs you less. Imagine if you weren't paying taxes, and imagine if your cost of living was cut in half. Imagine how much money you could save. You wouldn't be worried about inflation anymore. You'd feel fantastic. Other countries, Germany, Canada, South Africa, all around 7.5%, not very attractive for us. New Zealand just raised the price of their immigration investment programs dramatically. They're at 7.3. India, imagine India. For all the things people say about India, inflation is lower. It's been one of the top performers in my portfolio in the last 2 years, by the way. Singapore, right? Not going to save any money there, but they are opening up to having more people come. If you start your own company, if you get a high-powered job, inflation is lower there. Taxes are lower there. Philippines, if you invest $75,000, you can get a residence permit. Friendly territorial tax system. You may have a tax bill as low as 0. Costs, of course, are a lot lower. Go enjoy that island lifestyle for much less. South Korea has a golden visa program. They're at 6.3%. So you can get that. Taxes are moderate. And you can actually work towards citizenship. If you really want to be Korean, you can do that. Australia, if you like being locked out of your own country, their inflation rate is only 6.1%. France, if you like paying high taxes, theirs is the same. Indonesia, rolling out its new 5-year tax-free digital nomad program. Inflation is barely half of what it is in the U.S. right? And so what people don't know about Indonesia, the other top performer in my portfolio over the last couple of years, is Indonesia. What people don't realize, one of the largest populations on Earth, and increasingly looking to be self-sufficient, and therefore to potentially keep inflation rates lower. Switzerland, tax-friendly place if you are highly successful with their lump sum tax program in a number of the cantons. 3.4% inflation. Remember those days? 3.4%. They are still there in Switzerland, as well as Taiwan, China, 2.7, Saudi Arabia, 2.7. They've got a PR program. $213,000, you can be a resident for life and enjoy their zero tax policies. And then Japan, I've got different numbers, anywhere from 0.6 to 2.4. Also in that same neighborhood, Bahrain, buy real estate, get a residence, zero tax. Fiji, people ask us about that, not really that interesting. Vanuatu is pretty low. I'm not so sure about that, but obviously a tax-free place. You can get residence, you can get citizenship by investment. Not sure I'd be doing that citizenship by investment now. Bolivia, a place that's not very attractive from a residence standpoint or a citizenship standpoint, but their inflation's low. And then again, Saudi Arabia, we have conflicting numbers, whether it's 1 or 2%. So the point here is, you've got a number of countries. If inflation is your wake-up call to say, oh my goodness, my country stopped goods from coming to the country. They made life difficult. People couldn't go to work. Whatever happened, right? We can debate whether you like that or not. But now you're paying the piper. Now you're paying the piper from printing money. Now you're paying the piper from sending money out to everybody to sit at home. You're now paying the price. You now have these high inflation rates. And guess what? You don't have to suffer from that everywhere. And so if you're thinking, hey, where's inflation lower? This inflation's killing me. Well, I'll tell you what. I have a home in Malaysia. You want to know what gas prices are in Malaysia? Under $2 a gallon, right? So it's about, 55 cents a liter, right? And so cheaper than the US, cheaper than Canada, cheaper than the EU. When I was last in Malaysia a little while ago, it was like 60% cheaper for gas than it was in the US average. And so surely it would be cheaper than many parts of Europe and elsewhere, right? There's a big part of inflation, right? Now, no doubt, some of the places that we talk about, Tbilisi, Yerevan, Istanbul, you have seen big spikes in housing costs, both rental and property purchase prices. If you bought property in Tbilisi based on our talking about it a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you are sitting very pretty right now because you've got a lot of Russians going and driving up rental and property purchase prices, right? So you may not want to go there if you're looking to lower your costs, but certainly in some of these places, I mean, you can still get some very good deals on property. You go to Malaysia, you can still get some great deals on rent. You've got too many properties available. So you can save money on fuel if you even need a car at all. You can save money on utility costs. You can save money on rent in some of these places. You can save money on taxes because your taxes may be as low as zero, right? And so inflation should be the wake-up call to say, my government screwed up. I'm paying the price. What can I do to solve this? There are places to go where not only are just again, Mexico, same inflation as the US, but the base costs are lower to begin with. So even if everything's rising, you're still going to pay less. I was just in Tbilisi, Georgia. Yes, the cost of a Borjomi water is higher than it was before. It's still a heck of a lot cheaper, and I think better quality, than what you'd get where I'm from in the United States. It's like a 2/3 less. And so inflation is not low there. Things are going up due to a number of factors. But at least the base cost is lower, and at least their tax rate for you could be 0 or 1% if you're bringing your money in from out of the country. So places like Mexico and Italy, why not get a residence permit? You can keep that in your back pocket. If you live there for part of the time, you can get citizenship. Places like Thailand, again, totally tax friendly. You can live there and enjoy a better quality of life. And so let this be the wake-up call to say, how am I going to save money? And then we get into the question of living intentionally and saying lower cost of living, lower inflation, lower taxes mean I'm saving a heck of a lot more money. And the more money I've saved, that means that I have savings that if something bad happens, like prices shoot through the roof, I have a cushion. Again, less important if you make $10 million a year, but for everybody, having that cushion, having more money set aside is going to be valuable to help you suffer through whatever black swan event happens next, thanks to your government's incompetence. Looking at countries with lower inflation rates means it dispels the notion that the myth that there's nowhere else to go. This is just how the world works. No, there's always somewhere to go, and this is proof.